and I will be discussing fusion technology and helium-3 and why it's important for the human race and our future. And I will discuss the obstacles of fusion technology. I will discuss why helium-3 is important for fusion technology, and I will discuss finally why there are those who are not for it and would try and stop it before it becomes reality. To begin, a quote from Henry Ford. If I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. This is one of the first problems fusion technology faces, is the inability to recognize that just because we have fossil fuels, solar power, and wind power to meet our demands today, that clearly they'll be able to meet our demands for tomorrow. A huge paradigm shift in energy has to happen. It has to happen in the next 20 years if the human race and civilization as we know it is to continue consuming energy as we are. The other problem that fusion technology is facing is skepticism. The problem with fusion technology is it's just 20 years away. This has been a catchphrase in the nuclear industry since the 70s. Fusion technology is just 20 years away. Well, it was 20 years away in 1970, it was 20 years away in 1990, and it's 20 years away today. So a lot of people say, why should we care now? And I'll tell you why. Because unlike before, we're actually making technological breakthroughs to prove that fusion technology works. Just this year, in Livermore National Laboratories in California, they successfully fused deuterium in a controlled environment. As I'm speaking, they are building a fusion power plant in southern France that is going to use that very same technology, and it will be online by 2019. So in a way, fusion technology is 20 years away is still wrong. But this time it's because it may be sooner than we think. Another quote that's important that segues into the next section about helium-3 is a quote from Michio Kaku, a renowned physicist in our day. The advantages of fusion power are so great that many scientists have finally heeded its call. It generates no pollution, it's renewable, safe, and its byproduct is also a valuable resource. Fusion is being touted as being more efficient than anything that we can think of today, and just as importantly, it's clean, which is what so many people are focusing on today about power. But if fusion is going to evolve beyond just a proof of concept technology, we're going to have an abundant fuel source in order to make it an industry. Helium-3 is the answer to that. There's a really huge benefit to helium-3 and there's a downside. The downside first, to get it out of the way, is that helium-3 is a very rare isotope on the Earth. It's not abundant. It's produced by the sun's rays. Our magnetic field protects us from the sun rays. So it's not available here on the Earth, but we see it every night in the sky. Not the moon, but what's on the moon. Helium-3. It soaks up all the rays of the sun, both harmful and beneficial. For context, just how important helium-3 is, just how much bang for your buck do you get? If fusion technology becomes a reality tomorrow, what could helium-3 do for us? 25 tons of helium-3 would be enough fusion power to run the entire country for an entire year. And that's just 25 tons. The moon has over 1.1 billion tons of helium-3 on it. That would be more energy than the human race can imagine having to use at this time. And the best part is the sun is still pumping out more helium-3. So if we're mining the moon, and it will require mining in order to get that off the surface because it's in the rock and in the sediment, the moon will continue to soak up more helium-3. Which leads us to the third and final section of this speech, and that is that there are those who argue that we're plundering another world in order to save our own. We're strip mining the moon is what they're going to claim, and that's not fair. That the human race's appetite for power and energy is continuing to grow, and we need to learn to live within our energy means, not try and find just one more magic solution to try and keep civilization running as we know it. A quote from Harrison Schmitt, a geologist and an astronaut who went to the moon to collect samples. Some people might say that it is immoral to benefit from the resources of the moon. I believe it would be immoral not to have those resources available in this most critical of times. And I agree with him. Others call into question, though, going to the moon, not because that they're afraid or upset that we might be destroying it somehow, but because they do not think it's practical. Unfortunately, we haven't been to the moon in decades. The technology to go back is going to be costly. There are those who argue that astronauts would be in peril there. Radiation would be an ever-prevalent problem. We need to send robots, they argue. Well, robot technology hasn't been refined enough in order to do this. So, as you can see, fusion technology solves a tremendous amount of our problems for the future. And, just as importantly, we have an incredibly vast fuel source to make it a reality, and it's clean, it's safe, it's renewable, it produces helium. Helium in of itself is a valuable resource that's harmless, and it's just harmless. But if we don't do this because either we feel like the technology just isn't going to work to get there, to get the fuel source, or we feel like we're going to be destroying another world in order to satisfy our own needs, we better have a backup. We better have an alternative to that. That's not negotiable. And before I finish the speech, I will give you these handouts that I was supposed to show you during the speech. And this is the Earth's magnetic field. This is the field that protects us. And the price we pay for that protection is also the rare material that the sun pumps out. We also go without. Zoom in closer. And I'll hand this to y'all. And fusion, of course. What is fusion technology, in case you're not aware? It is the opposite of fission, the the atomic bomb in nuclear power plants. Instead of splitting an atom, you're fusing them together. And it is considerably more powerful than the alternative. But just consider this, and that is my presentation. Thank you.